Well, Casey, all of the General Assembly bills revolving around the removal of the Confederate statues died in subcommittee. Now this means the laws centering around the issues will not change in 2018.
It was right here on 4th Street where people were injured and near Emancipation Park after that rally. Tonight they're turning to the community asking for help after many are still struggling with their injuries.
Hey guys, good evening. I'm a little off camera here just to be able to tell you what's going on. This is a group of our community defenders who were there on August 12, 2017.
In June of last year, councilors voted to rename Lee Park, as everyone knows it now, to Emancipation Park, despite that name never actually showing up on a list of recommended names. Now councilors and the public are set to rename or possibly rename this park again tomorrow night. The name Emancipation Park leaves a bad taste in some people's mouth.
I cringe every time you still say it. Even like today, if you say it on the news, it just go all through me.
In October, local activist Mary Carey started a petition to rename the park.
All of this came out to a document name. And then it's a Black history type document name. That's something that people of color and African Americans hold dear.
A few name suggestions in the petition are Festival Park, Market Street Park, and Central Park.
There were a mix of emotions outside the courthouse today, but a majority was unhappy with the judge's decision to take down the shrouds from the Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson statue, and with that erupted a very heated debate. Outside the Charlottesville Circuit Courthouse, crowds clashed over whether or not Confederate statues should be covered or not.
They can talk about our heritage, but the heritage is about hate.
Now people are rallying outside the Charlottesville General District Courthouse ahead of a trial set for tomorrow morning. The case stems from the violence of August 12th. NBC 29's Taylor Gleason is live with a look at tonight's vigil that is now underway. Hi, Taylor.
Well, guys, we're responding to a bit of an interesting situation right now. If you look over to my left, we have the Charlottesville Fire Department that's responding to a scene here on East Market Street. The Charlottesville Police Department says they received a suspicious package a few moments ago and are just doing this as precaution. But if you take a look past these cars over to my right, you can see that protesters from Surge and Black Lives Matter are remaining in place. They say the charge against DeAndre Harris needs to be dropped and that he's a victim of what happened last summer. Now, organizers say tonight's vigil is aimed at encouraging people to attend Harris's trial on Friday. They are calling on Commonwealth's attorney Joe Platini to drop all charges against Harris. They say he was defending himself from white supremacists on August 12th during the incident in the garage.
DeAndre was abused, physically brutalized, less than 500 yards from where we stand. Tomorrow we will see if the courts will continue that brutalization or not. And we should all be paying attention because this affects all of us.
So that's what this lawsuit was brought for.
The Pennsylvania Lightfoot, New York Lightfoot, and 3% People's Militia of Maryland all entered consent decrees Wednesday in Charlottesville Circuit Court, agreeing they will not come back to the city as part of a group of 2 or more while armed with any potential weapons at any demonstration or protest. 11 of the 25 plaintiffs in the lawsuit have now settled in this manner.
It wasn't brought to seek money damages. It wasn't brought for injuries that occurred last year. It was brought to look forward as a way to sort of like prevent a repeat of what happened last August.
People say Charlottesville's struggle with race didn't just begin after the Unite the Right rallies.
I think there have been things under the surface for years.
Tony Barskill says, being from the North, at first she didn't understand why people were so upset with the Robert E. Lee statue until she saw
how much meaning and how much people had that statue or that way of life invested in who they are.
Who they are is one topic the Dialogue on Race series at the Jefferson School is talking about. Back in December, people got to vote on their personal priorities within 5 different categories. Everything from education to recovery and preparation stemming from the events of the summer.
I think folks are thirsty for Charlottesville's story.
On Monday, the topic that got the most votes was supporting learning more about Charlottesville's history.
I realized that the Old South is still here. and really kind of shocked me, I guess.
Charlene Green with the Office of Human Rights says besides that history, she's also been working with other communities who haven't attended the Dialogue on Race sessions in neighborhoods like West Haven and Tonsler Park to get their input.
That's when I get responses like, there should be more rapid rehousing available because I know a lot of people who are homeless.
She says getting everyone's input is how we can start trying to move forward.
Understanding our history is like having that first chapter.
Well, we haven't made a lot of progress, unfortunately.
First tonight, she may be battered and tired, but Heather Heyer's mother says not a lot has changed in the past year regarding racial equality in Charlottesville, and that, she says, is a problem. Susan Breaux doesn't have all the answers. She doesn't claim to have them.
But tonight she is urging people to stand up and speak out about racial inequities in our community. Ahead of this anniversary weekend to the deadly violence that claimed her daughter's life in Charlottesville, Breaux is speaking out. NBC 29's Henry Graff has the story live tonight from 4th Street. Hi, Henry.
Casey, good evening. Yeah, Susan Breaux comes down here to the spot here along 4th Street at least once a month. This is where her daughter died. She also comes here, though, to reflect, to re-energize, and to keep up that fight her daughter was trying against white supremacy.
Well, we haven't made a lot of progress, unfortunately.
Susan Breaux gets right to the point about the lack of progress she's seen for racial equality in Charlottesville.
I'd say more white people are woken up, but that's about it. The black activists have been fighting all along.
That fight is what drew her daughter into the streets of Charlottesville on August 12, 2017. Heather Heyer died counter-protesting the Unite the Right rally. James Fields Jr. is accused of running her over with his car.
I felt here is where my daughter was ripped away from me.
Hang in there, you're getting the message out.
Thank you. Trying to. Yep. That's what it's about for me, the message.
Even here along 4th Street on this day, the fight to educate continues.
Hey.
Good morning. How are you?
Beautiful as always.
Some support Breaux and what she's done in the past year. Others have questions.
And I finally concluded I'm going to do what I feel I need to do, and if you get it, great. If you don't get it, you want to talk about it, great.
She says the issues that affect communities of color persist in the city. Inequities in housing, education, and criminal justice.
It does happen to other people, and you have to accept that reality before we can fix that reality.
Breaux has come to terms with that reality, but wants to change others, as Heather was trying to do that fateful August afternoon.
This is not about her. It took me the longest time, Henry, to figure out why people were so gaga over the story of Heather's death. I think if had it been a person of color that died, everybody would have went, and moved on. And that's not right. That's not fair.
Breaux says if Heather were here, she would be preparing to take another stand against white supremacy this weekend.
I don't know what everybody individually is called to do. I know what I'm going to be doing, but I can't answer for other people. You have to figure that out for yourself.
Back out here live along 4th Street in downtown Charlottesville. Susan also shared something with me today that I want to share with everybody as well. She told me that when we talk about remembering, it is important to remember the 2 police officers who were in the helicopter who died that day. And here's why she says it is important. She says those 2 brave men were in that chopper the moment Fields allegedly hit everybody in the spot here behind me. They were still in the air and able to track James Fields' car, get police to his location before he was able to get to the interstate.
Wow. Henry Graff live for us tonight. Thank you, Henry. The Community Mental Health and Wellness Coalition is expanding the resources available to the community to cope with this weekend's traumatic anniversary. Therapists and volunteers are ready to deploy physically into the community this weekend should anything traumatic occur. Free drop-in counseling will also be available at several locations. Lori Wood at Region 10 will be taking the lead on this.
Care and response is coordinated. So if there's a need in one area of town, other folks can be deployed to that area by having a coordinated system of response.
Charlottesville Mayor Nikia Walker spoke with NBC 29 today about her plans and hopes for this weekend, but she also talked about how a larger conversation is needed to right the historical racial wrongs in the city.
So that's the real work. You know, a few days of, people marching and rallying in our streets is not why they ended up here. we had laid the foundation for this to be a just ripe location for this kind of hatred to brew more. And so we have to undo that.
Charlottesville Mayor Nikiah Walker says the city has a lot to do to make sure citizens feel they live in an equitable and just city, but it will take the community coming together.
People have to be willing. You know, that's been the fight the past year.
Problems in housing, education, and the criminal justice system are among the priorities. But this weekend, the mayor's top concern is safety.
Make sure nothing like that happens again would be my hope for Monday, and everything else we can deal with.
1 year after the white supremacist events of last summer, it's anything but business as usual in Charlottesville with heavy security restrictions in place.
It's just hard just to be citizens.
But people have still been out patroning businesses on the downtown mall.
We've been really busy since I've opened the doors this morning.
As a community looks to heal and move forward.
We are in this together.
NBC 29 team coverage starts right now.
Members of the University of Virginia and Charlottesville communities gathered this morning to reflect on last year's violent demonstrations on the lawn and discuss how to move forward together. NBC 29's Caroline Colburn has that story.
Calming music, poetic reflections.
I watch millions marching like it's 1963.
And words of encouragement.
It's important that we're here together.
Flooded Old Cabell Hall Saturday as UVA students and community members gathered for a morning of healing.
We are 1 year away from events that brought hurt and harm to our community.
During the Hope That Summons Us event, UVA President James Ryan acknowledged the university did not respond to last year's white supremacist march across grounds as well as it should have.
We must admit to mistakes, including those made last year. We do nothing more than recognize our common humanity. To say to those who were attacked around the statue last year, I am sorry. We are sorry.
Inside Old Cabell Hall, a sense of unity.
I wasn't able to be here last year, so for me it was also just an issue of coming and showing support in a way that I couldn't before.
But just outside, barricades and security restricted public access to the lawn.
I know a lot of students are very concerned about just the over-policing. You know, there's such a heavy police presence here right now.
Despite concerns about heightened security and last year's mistakes, President Ryan says UVA will continue to be committed to living the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I believe that in the face of tragedy, having endured some myself, that we can still find the strength to move forward, that we must. We are in this together.
A long time coming, but I know
in Charlottesville,
a change gonna come.
Caroline Colburn, NBC 29 News.
Well, things are quieting down again now as Charlottesville community marks the 1 year anniversary since last year's violent white supremacist rallies. As the sun went down, protesters had turned up the volume.
What was supposed to be a rally for justice on grounds at UVA wound up as hordes of people chanting and marching through the streets of Charlottesville.
We can tell you off the top here that the streets of Charlottesville are quiet. What we really saw here tonight on this in the streets of Charlottesville was a reclaiming of space. Because remember, it was 1 year ago on this night that white supremacists descended on UVA in that surprise attack with their torches, instilling a lot of fear in people. Tonight, a different chant. UVA Students United, Black Lives Matter, Anti-Fascist, and community members joined forces for this protest. Chants included "No justice, no peace," "Take the statues down," and anti-police messages saying, quote, last year they came with torches, this year they came with badges. Now this group started near the Rotunda and then took off through neighborhoods along Rugby Road, Preston Avenue, 10th Street, and West Main Street. They marched on the downtown mall, moved toward Market Street Park, but then turned away.
They weren't doing anything that was unlawful, and I asked them, you could see why the students would be upset when they see, you know, maybe 100 or so cops, or what it looks like 100 cops in riot gear. That just escalates the situation.
Police make 4 arrests as confrontations between various demonstrators and police mark 1 year since last year's violent white supremacist events. People flooded 4th Street in Charlottesville.
That you'll bring us a peace, that you'll bring a calm to this entire community.
Prayers and kind words celebrate the memory of Heather Heyer, a woman who died last year fighting for racial justice.
Just to let her know that her life was not in vain.
This as people vow to continue the fight for justice and equality. NBC 2019 coverage starts right now.
Happening right now in Charlottesville, members of the interfaith community are gathering on the downtown mall at the Sprint Pavilion.
Yeah, the group is participating in a Better Together rally on this, the anniversary of the Unite the Right rally that turned violent. People are coming to the pavilion to pray together for change and healing, both for this community and for the nation. This is a live look with that rally just about to get underway. Coming up tonight on your news at 11, we'll have a closer look at the worship service and hear from community leaders.
Susan Bro was greeted with an emotional welcome at the spot where her daughter Heather Heyer was killed 1 year ago. As so many were overcome by emotions, Bro stood stoic.
Susan, how are you able to be so strong?
How can you not be? My daughter had a mission, and it's my job to complete that mission.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe!
People in Charlottesville are speaking loud and clear.
The over-policing of this weekend failed to rectify the damage of last year's police stand-down.
Many saying the amount of police on August 11th and 12th was too much this year.
They came in here with a really antagonistic attitude towards the protesters. They saw them as the enemy.
They called an emergency without a factual basis for an emergency.
On Tuesday, dozens spoke to city councilors at the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center to weigh in on how the weekend went.
While I appreciate the over-policing for white Nazis, we need to decrease the over-policing in black neighborhoods.
On August 12th, protesters marched from Washington Park to 4th Street, where Heather Heyer's memorial is. They were met by police blocking the secure perimeter.
We weren't allowed to mourn. Thank God there were some strong people in there that were trained in de-escalation.
Why did they put riot gear on us? They gave Susan Bro respect, and I understand that. They gave her the respect enough to leave from down there. And as soon as Susan Bro left, they started suiting up on us. Why?
Others at the listening session talked about going through security to get onto the downtown mall.
This is unbelievable. People are getting used to going to concerts, to going to sporting events and so on, and having their bags searched, but not walking down the main street of our city.
The Center for the Study of Race and Law at UVA held a conference today with a message. It is replacing racism with reconciliation. And the goal is to dissect race relations in the past and also figure out how to move forward. NBC 29's Megan Moriarty joining us in our newsroom with that story. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Sharon. Professors took a look at the new wave of racism in America, specifically looking at the Unite the Right rally of 2017 and how that sets a tone for our country. Now, at an all-day conference at UVA's law school, it brought in students and faculty. They discussed race, immigration, women's rights, and other hot topics. Keynote speaker was Theodore Shaw, a law professor at the University of North Carolina. He touched on the issue of preserving history, referencing the controversial statues in Charlottesville. I asked UVA professor Dana Matthew about the events centered around those statues and the torchlit rally on grounds.
One of the things that we're excited about is that the university is under a new vision and leadership that is very outwardly focused at improving community and university relations. There is much work to do. The history that has called this university a plantation must be refuted by concerted, intentional, and constant action, and that's what we're seeing happen and hope to participate in this conference and beyond.
A memorial is set to be built on grounds at UVA to remember enslaved African American laborers who built the university. Today, the artist and engineer behind the project, Eto Atutikbe, spoke to students at Charlottesville High School about that project and the history behind it. It is still in the planning stages, but it's expected to be finished sometime in 2019. He says 5,000 enslaved people created grounds, but to this day, we only know the names of 1,000.
by understanding the details, such as the fact that there are 5,000 people who were enslaved, but limited awareness of their actual names and their own personhood. That really important detail, especially if you situate it, for example, in this classroom here of perhaps 100 students. What if we only knew 3 of their names? How does that sit with you? How does that make you feel?
Those are some of the questions the artist asks students to challenge them. Tomorrow he will visit grounds to review some historical documents for that memorial.
Several people arrested on the 1-year anniversary of the Unite the Right rally appeared in front of the judge this morning. Jesse Beard will have to pay a fine for obstructing free passage when he blocked officers from providing safe passage for a group of demonstrators. Chloe Lubin will also pay fines for misdemeanor assault and disorderly conduct after a trooper saw her spit in the face of a demonstrator. Veronica Fitzhugh was also found guilty of disorderly conduct for getting into a fight with a man who told NBC 29 he was peacefully protesting near the Lee statue downtown.
History is not learned by looking at a statue. You learn it from history books, you learn it from museums.
Matthew Christensen says Confederate statues have no place in public spaces.
They need to be somewhere where you have to make a conscious choice to be faced with them.
After living in Albemarle County for 11 years, he started a petition to remove the Confederate statue just outside the county's courthouse.
This is one of the worst, could be seen as one of the worst statues of the 3 because it's right here in front of the courthouse.
Known as At Ready, it was stationed there in 1909 to honor the everyday Confederate soldier. That's more than a decade before the nearby statues of Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson went up.
Seeing that all 3 of these statues were placed in Jim Crow South, they were placed there as a signal to people of color that they're not welcome.
I know there's differences in perspective about all of these things, but that is how we learn. And that is how we have something to have discussion about. So I'm not sure that erasing it is the right way.
Now Albemarle Supervisor Ann Malik says the petition has yet to reach the Board of Supervisors, but any removal requires state legislative approval. She says she believes the county needs to tell a more complete history.
Growing up here, our teacher in high school talked about the statue as a representation of the way families were torn apart in Virginia.
It's overshadowing this place that is supposed to be a place of equal justice and neutrality. And there's nothing neutral or equal justice about a Confederate statue that's honoring people who fought for slavery.
Now, right now, Christensen has about 300 signatures on that change.org petition. His goal is to get about 500. Supervisors anticipate that this issue may come up in the coming weeks on their agenda.
5 of those charges James Fields Jr. is facing have now been upgraded to aggravated malicious wounding charges. Now, those charges carry the potential of life sentences, now adding 5 onto the 1 life sentence he is already potentially facing here at the end of the day.
Guilty of first-degree murder. That is the verdict for the man who rammed his car into people on Charlottesville's downtown mall.
Yeah, after 8 hours of deliberation, jurors handed down their verdict to James Fields Jr. for the attack he made following the Unite the Right rally in 2017, killing Heather Heyer and wounding dozens of other people.
Now, following that announcement, members of the community and survivors took to the streets in solidarity.
I woke up this morning with my mind set on justice.
A community reclaiming its streets.
Black lives are under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back.
Members of the Charlottesville community marched downtown Friday night after news of multiple guilty verdicts for James Fields Jr.
It's a relief. You can actually breathe now from it.
Marcus Martin was one of the victims outside Charlottesville Circuit Court following the verdict.
Long, 9 tense days, like those 9 days when this whole court case was going on, you just couldn't breathe.
Friday, Fields was convicted of first-degree murder in the death of Heather Heyer and found guilty of several other charges related to the violent car attack on August 12, 2017.
Just having to go through what he did to us, out of hatred, violence, with the intent to hurt us, kill us, and just to make sure that he can never do that to nobody else again. You can't bring this upon anybody else again.
Community members took the time to pay their respects to Heyer Friday night, gathering at her memorial site on 4th Street.
Physically, mentally, and emotionally, there are so many people hurt in this community.
Then the crowd marched to the statue of Robert E. Lee in Market Street Park.
The statue, they say, started it all in August of 2017.
Whose park? Our park! Whose park? Our park!
Some say even with the guilty verdict for Fields, there's still work to be done.
Racism and white supremacy did not show up in Charlottesville on August 11th and leave on August 13th. It's been here before then, it's still here now, and we still have so much work to do to correct all of the evil of racism and white supremacy that we see in our community.
Others say a little bit of justice has been brought to the community.
So thank God for the victory. That's all I'm saying. Thank God for the guilty verdicts. That's all I can say. Thank God.
At the end of the day, activists say the Charlottesville community will stay strong and continue on its path of healing.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
One of the most horrifying and embarrassing days of my life.
Athletes, both past and present, went back in time to recall how they felt on August 12, 2017.
I was pretty upset, but as more details kind of emerged and you learn about what the Unite the Right rally was about.
While some believed the rally was about history, many saw it as a symbol of hate and destruction.
Don't try to twist this to rationalize, well, we need this as a reminder that evil exists.
A heated conversation about the statues, the president, and the politics surrounding sports erupted during a serious but calm race panel on UVA grounds on Friday night. Former UVA athletes Chris Long and Akil Mitchell spoke up about using their platform as a player to enforce change, while new athletic director Carla Williams talked about how race disappears on the sports field.
A lot of our teams are the best examples of people from different backgrounds, different races, religions, socioeconomic status, just coming together, putting all of that aside to compete for championships.
Moderator and Professor Claudrina Harold asked tough questions about the pushback these influencers sometimes receive because of their beliefs.
One of my biggest pet peeves is the shut up and dribble or shut up and play football, stick to sports. I've always heard that.
Long adds that as someone in the public eye, he's a role model and he wants to use his platform for positive change. Other panelists say they agree and will continue to fight for an equal playing field for all.
Our top story this Saturday night, a Gordonsville couple that survived a deadly car attack back in August that injured dozens and killed Heather Heyer got their happy ending today.
Like a princess. You are. Surrounded by friends and family, Marissa Blair is putting the final touches on her wedding day look.
It's indescribable. I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm nervous.
A day she didn't think would come.
She deserved it.
Because of what happened here on August 12th, Marissa and her fiancé Marcus Martin were victims of a car attack while counter-protesting the Unite the Right rally. Marcus pushed Marissa out of the way, saving her life and breaking his leg.
He always said he'd do any and everything to protect me, and he proved it.
Just had a reaction, not even a thought. I mean, I can't even explain it, just a reaction.
Close friend Heather Heyer was killed in the attack, so they put wedding planning on the back burner. Wedding planner and owner of Bella Giornata Events heard the couple's story and jumped in to help.
I can't help them fight the KKK. I can't help racism. I can't fix these things for them. What I can do is make their dreams come true with the help of my friends today.
She and more than 30 other vendors offered their services to give Marcus and Marissa the wedding of their dreams.
Even if me and Marcus had got married and August 12th didn't happen, it would never be anything like this. Like, this is more than I could have ever dreamed of.
We're really, really grateful.
The couple insisted one special person be part of the ceremony.
Without Heather, this wouldn't be possible, and if Heather was still here, Heather would definitely be here on the front row.
It is time to release your butterflies.
The bridal party wore purple, and Susan Bro, Heyer's mother, led the crowd in a butterfly release in remembrance of Heather.
She's watching over those that she loves, and that includes Marcus and Marissa.
I promise to love you unconditionally.
I promise to love you unconditionally.
To believe in you.
To believe in you.
The couple walked down the aisle for the first time as husband and wife.
He's my husband. My husband.
They say their wedding serves as a message for the rest of the world.
It proves hate won't win.
And it proves that there are more good people in the world than there are bad, and that love will win.
Blair's reception dress was donated by Annalise Bridal in Richmond. The bridal boutique will be selling that dress at their floor sale and then donating all the proceeds to the Heather Heyer Foundation.